Hi, I'm Julie Campbell and welcome to my fourth vlog. In Zami, Audre Lorde describes the discovering of her own self through many stories. She also uses things such as the food and cooking objects when she's helping her mother with dinner. Like on page 74, she describes how, after all the ingredients were in the bowl of the mortar, I fetched the pestle and placing it into the bowl, slowly rotated the shaft a few times, working it gently down through all the ingredients to mix them. At first, Lorde struggled to find ways to display or explore her lesbianism. When people are exploring new boundaries, it may be easier to experiment on their own first, which is what I believe Lorde does in this scene. The way she's preparing the food is very sexual and very private. It's pretty much happening in her own mind. Sometimes the descriptions of her food experiments would get so carried away that we often find her mother interrupting her, asking her what she's doing. I also think it's important to talk about the timeline of when she began menstruating to when she became pregnant and got an abortion. She spent so much time going to libraries and sneaking books in order to try and educate herself on the subject. When she did finally get her period for the first time, her mother explained to her on page 77, "This means from now on, you better watch your step and not be so friendly with every Tom, Dick, and Harry." Her mother didn't really take much time to educate her on what can happen and how it can happen. I feel if she would have taken the time to sit down with Lorde, then there wouldn't have been an accidental pregnancy. Based on my own experience, my mother pretty much forced herself into helping with my becoming of a woman. She was always asking questions and always trying to give me children books that educated me on menstruation, how to take care of my body, and everything that one should know about the woman body. It made me really uncomfortable at times and often annoyed, but a lot of this stuff she was telling me needed to be said. I'm glad she did that, and I wish Lorde's mother would have done that for her. It could have helped her with her sexuality. Fast forward to when Lorde becomes pregnant with Peter's baby. Lorde ultimately decides to get an abortion. When she describes the process, it amazes me how different it was during that time period and seemed almost just casual in a way. On page 109, when she's talking to Anne, she says everybody knows somebody. For her, it was the mother of another nurse in surgery. Very safe and clean, foolproof and cheap. An induced miscarriage by Foley catheter. A homemade abortion. Abortion was a lot more private and a lot less talked about in the 30s and 40s. According to an article in The Atlantic, there was way less religious interest in abortion because it wasn't talked about as much. The religious focus was on birth control and contraceptive, for those were a lot more in the public eye than abortion. It also seems as though abortion was a lot more homemade during that time period. Nowadays, if a person wants to walk into Planned Parenthood, whether it's for abortion or for a simple pregnancy test, they can't walk in there without protesters sitting outside letting them know they are either terrible people or that they are killing a baby. It's also a very strict process, and costly as well. According to Planned Parenthood's website, an abortion can cost up to $700. Instead of a 15-hour process like it was for Lorde, it usually can be a 10 to 15-minute process. Lorde's aftermath was extremely painful. While many women these days feel extreme emotional pain after the procedures, I don't think Lorde felt the same kind of pain. Her pain was a lot more physical. There were times that she thought she might die, and she was ready for that pain to go away, and then she would be okay. And she doesn't really mention the emotional aftermath as much as the physical. I do wish Lorde talks a little bit more about the emotional side of it. When you do research online about the emotional side effects of abortion today, it seems to be a lot of Christian-run websites where women claim that they regret the abortion more than anything in their life. And they claim it's the same for everyone, but is it really? A lot of people will try and push that emotional regret into women planning abortions in order to try and stop them. I could go well into why this should never happen, but that would get me started into a very long pro-choice and pro-life debate. Lorde talks so much about being in physical pain, but doesn't say how she felt emotionally after. Did she feel regret, or did she feel more relieved, and only relieved? From her words, it seems as though she felt mostly relief. There's a lot to talk about in this book, a lot of topics that are hard for people to talk about, whether it be about exploring one's own body and sexuality or accepting the fact that Lorde was able to get an abortion and learning that she had to do it all on her own without help from the father. These are things that women still struggle with today, and I'm glad Lord was able to put such a spotlight on these topics. I hope more people are able to hear this story and talk about it because it's still relevant today. Thanks for watching.